You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Von Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
All right, looks like we are live. We're going to let this stream breathe for just a second. Make sure we got green check marks across all platforms. Looks like we're good to go. Mile high, hello, everybody, in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always, is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. And also, we got a special guest today, guys. We have the host of the Building the Broncos podcast. We're hoping to have Nick on as well, but unfortunately, with him moving, to getting ready to have a big move and everything with him and Natalie and everybody, it's kind of hard to get him in on the show as well. So Carl's going to join us today. We're going to discuss some Broncos hot takes and bold predictions. Now, fellas, Erick, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. It's been a rough week, but definitely been a great Friday. We got the kitty. We were able to pick her up a day early, and so we have her out getting adjusted to everybody, and just getting used to that. And then, of course, I had a great time fishing last Sunday. So it's kind of been a good start to the week, terrible in between, and it's looking like a good end to the week at least.
Yeah. Carl, what's up, man?
Nothing much. I actually just got back from a dance party with my daughter.
There you go.
And some fun drinks. And so I'm excited for this, man. You guys know it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun one. This was supposed to be, we kind of talked about this in our private chat about doing everybody sit down and just shoot the bull and have some fun, give some hot takes and stuff like that. Everybody has a drink and carries on, just make it an adult show more or less. I mean, PG, of course, always, but still have some fun and give some bold takes. It's, as far as I'm concerned, everything is really just waiting on bated breath, Samantha's due here literally any second. I mean, our technical due date is next Wednesday, so I'm really excited about that. Hoping that I can join the show next week on Friday, but we're not sure about that yet. So we'll see. We'll keep that in the cards and kind of discuss everything. Now, boys, before we get started here, a couple of matters of business. Make sure you guys are following the show at DVDD_pod on Twitter. That's the easiest way to keep your fingers on the pulse of what's happening with the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Throw some takes on there every now and again, but usually that's where you can find our hot takes and stuff like that. Is you can follow me on Twitter at Sanderson MHH, for Erick at Erick Trickel, and for Carl at Carl Dumler MHH. Also, make sure you guys are following at Huddle Up Pod. It's the easiest way to keep in touch with what's going on with all of the podcasts, including Carl's show, Building the Broncos. Head on over and follow at Mile High Huddle as well for instant news and analysis, opinion articles, film breakdowns of your Denver Broncos. And also, guys, if you are in a position to do so, let me see if I can find it really fast. Might have scrolled over it. Anyways, head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get yourself some merch, man. Get one of those Building the Broncos hats, a Dove Valley Deep Diver t-shirt, something, hashtag Football Priest t-shirt for the Huddle Up show. If you're not able to do so financially, the 3 easiest ways that you can support the show are this. Subscribe wherever you guys are watching, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, anything like that. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Like every video that you guys see. And if you love it, share it. Share it to everyone in Broncos country. Help us grow the show. We are growing exponentially, especially on YouTube right now. Just crossed that 7,000 mark a couple weeks ago, pushing 8,000 really fast, actually. So if you guys are able to do so, please subscribe, like, and share. Now, hot take time, guys. Hot take Friday. Carl, I want to start with you. Give me your hot takes on this upcoming 2020 Denver Broncos regular season.
All right. Well, my first one, and I'm not sure which one's my most controversial. This first one is Von Miller will not be the best pass rusher for the Broncos in 2020. And let me get my reasoning behind it, and then I'll let you guys have your chance to talk behind and tear it apart. But one, I mean, Von Miller was still dominant last year, but I do think you saw a little bit of a step down from what we'd seen before. If we're going to be really honest, he's on the wrong side of 30. He's going to be, I think he is 31 right now. and possibly going to be 32 as the season goes on. I'm not sure when his birthday is. I'm sure our listeners can let me know on that one, but it is. Pass rushers, especially speed rushers like Von Miller, when the speed starts going, I mean, Von Miller has a lot more to his game than just speed, but speed is his number one quality that he has as a rusher to get around the edge. And I'm a big believer in Bradley Chubb. His rookie year, that 8-game stretch where he just was absolutely dominant. And then even the start of last year, the sacks were not coming. Now we need to understand sacks are a weird stat. Like everybody loves them and everybody goes crazy for him. But does anybody really believe Shaq Barrett was the best pass rusher in the NFL last season?
No.
I mean, he was good. He had his moments, but there was a lot of his sacks that were honestly him just being unblocked straight to the quarterback because they were worried about other people. Bradley Chubb, if you watch those first few games, the man was living in the backfield. And unfortunately, the secondary was not doing their job, and so the ball was getting out quick, and so Bradley Chubb wasn't getting the sacks, but he was getting there. And he's dominant in the run game. You could see there was just a jump from year 1 to year 2. And so I really think this year he's going to show that he is now the number one pass rusher for the Broncos.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Honestly, I don't think it's really that hot of a take personally. I think that it's actually a smart take because, as you said, his age, he did turn 31 years old in March. I looked it up and everything. So he's on that wrong side of 30. We already saw a start of a decline last year. And even going back to the 2018 season, there were some moments where he just seemed a little bit slower off the snap and just not quite as quick. I mean, wasn't nearly as often as it was last year. So you definitely saw that a little bit. And I think that with Bradley Chubb, that I agree with that too. Is like he was living in the backfield last year and he was super productive. I actually had the numbers here and I went off of it, but hold on. Yeah, he was winning his hit a good pass rush win rate those first four weeks that he was able to play, and it was actually higher than Von Miller's was over that time. So we definitely were seeing more from Bradley Chubb over those first 4 games while he was healthy. My only thing that I would say is kind of a way to kind of not shut this down but go against it is with the lack of programs this offseason, how is Bradley Chubb's rehab coming along? Him not being allowed back and at the facilities for rehabbing and all that stuff like that. I think that he might have a slower start to the season, but I think at the end of the season, I think this will actually be a take that ends up correct.
Yeah.
No, I firmly agree with you, Carl, and citing the same reasons, just the fact that he was so dominant in the first 4 weeks of last season, that ACL tear really derailed. Obviously, I mean, ended his season early, but still, the way that he was able to impact not only the passing game, but in the running game. He was dominant off the edge, had at least a handful, if not even more than that, tackles for loss in the backfield in the running game, constant pressure all the way, couldn't quite get home. And that seemed to be the theme for the Broncos over the first 4 weeks. But still, Bradley Chubb coming off that knee injury. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that the injured players that were going to rehab were actually allowed at the facility to do their rehab with some trainers on a limited basis. It wasn't like an everyday kind of a thing. They could come in and do some stuff. Eric, am I wrong on that?
They were still allowed in on a limited basis for a while. When they shut the facilities down completely, they weren't. Okay. And that took a while for them to open back up. And I think that just now, actually, with training camp, is the first time that players are really allowed back into team facilities. I'm not really 100% certain on that, but I do know that it hasn't been a normal offseason for anybody, including injured players, and I think that it's going to hurt them quite a bit, just as it will hurt like undrafted free agents and guys on futures contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's just it was such an interesting thing to watch him, especially the growth and development he had in year 1. I mean, we're talking a plug and play kind of a guy coming out of NC State, just an amazing pass rusher. He could have went into any scheme, and going into Vic Fangio's scheme, playing that Khalil Mack or Leonard Floyd role, whichever one you really want it to be. There's a lot of growth there, and I think that you can actually get him on an inside if you want to bring in. So put him as like as a 5-tech and have him rush inside of the tackle, bring in Malik Reed or Justin Hollins on the outside. They're going to be able to use him in a multitude of different facets. So it's going to be very fun to watch him this year. It's just again, with Von Miller slowing down a little bit last year, he didn't get the sack numbers that we were used to seeing with him. The pressures were still constant. But also, another thing you got to think about here is, what is Jurrell Casey going to do? Where is he going to line up? What side of the football is he going to line up on? Is he going to line up next to Von Miller, or is he going to go over and play next to Bradley Chubb? Like, that's a big dynamic in this.
I think we'll most likely see him lining up on that right defensive end spot, which lines up against on the left side of the line. I think that's where we'll end up seeing Casey.
Okay.
Yeah. But I agree with all that. I just and I do think some of Bradley Chubb's best plays last year were on stunts, where he was actually stunting to the inside. Yeah. And the guys just couldn't keep up with his speed / power. And so that's the best thing that they can do. And Jurrell Casey's great at that. He can be – I mean, that was something that Derek Wolfe was very good at as well. Jurrell Casey will come in and do a lot of that as well. But, Bradley Chubb, the more I watched him last year, I liked his game last year in the 4 games that we saw than his year before. I mean, I really did see the growth in him. And if he can stay healthy, I don't think he'll ever reach Von Miller elite level of pass rusher. But all-around game, I think he could be one of the best – edge rushers in the NFL in the sense of just what he brings as an overall package. And then you add in, he's also got that leadership quality that you're looking for. I wonder the dynamic with that a little bit, just because Von Miller is kind of a weird leader. If we're being really honest, he's not your typical really motivate guys, anything like that. He's more of your buddy and kind of weird, let's have a big dance party at my house kind of guy for bringing people together. Where Bradley Chubb is that I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to work my tail off to be the best leader that there is. And so it'll be interesting just to see how players relate to both of them moving forward. But and this isn't any kind of shot at Von Miller. I still think he's going to have a great season. I think these two, there's a reason last year they were rated as the number 1 edge rush duo in football before Bradley Chubb went down with an injury. And I still think this year they're probably still going to be that. 49ers might have an argument, I guess you could say, but and I guess the Chargers could have an argument as well. But it's still, it's more of a showing of how much I believe in Bradley Chubb than a knock on Von Miller.
Yeah, that's a great take. One thing that I want to highlight, especially you said it early in your last little spiel there, was the fact that Von Miller uses his speed and bend. Bradley Chubb is a different kind of a pass rusher, using strength and speed to power is the biggest thing. And that's where you're going to see him have a lot of success, like you said, on the stunts and stuff like that. Now, before we continue on, guys, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat stream. There was a lot of really good comments. Duke in here, Moana doing his thing, John in the comment stream, being the mayor of the YouTube community. Dylan Von Arts, what's up, dude? Zach's Web Design, nice to see you in our show. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Robert Skinner, Mile High Beauty, Todd Anderson. Hey, everybody, welcome into the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Now, Eric, it's your turn. What's your first hot take for the Broncos this season?
Actually, it kind of deals with getting after the quarterback again. But Mine is going to be that Shelby Harris should not start for the Broncos, but Draymond Jones should. And there's actually a couple reasons for this. Shelby Harris last year as a starter, yes, he got 6 sacks on the season, but most of those sacks were considered coverage sacks. They were more than 3 seconds after the snap of the ball. One of them was I believe it was against the Titans, where the quarterback went to take off and he was shut down at the line of scrimmage and then managed to break away at the last second and get the sack. Like, nothing against Shelby Harris, but he was much better in 2017, 2018 in a sub role for the Broncos on the defensive line. And I think that's where he is going to continue to be best at. And then on that same point, Draymond Jones last year, when he started really seeing reps, he was actually really performing. He had a higher pass rush win rate than Shelby Harris did. He was a more effective pass rusher with a higher pass rush productivity, with his at 6.8 compared to 5.2 for Shelby Harris. And this is he only played 198 pass rush snaps for Draymond Jones, and he had 23 pressures on that. That is 1 pressure every 9 snaps, whereas Shelby Harris, he had 329 pass rush snaps with 28 pressures, which is 1 every 12. They got a sack. Draymond Jones 1 every 50 snaps as he did, as a pass rusher, rounding up, of course. It was actually I think it was right at 49.5. And then Shelby Harris was 1 every 55. So he was a little bit more effective in that. Now, the question that I have with it, kind of questioning my own take here, is was Draymond Jones that effective because he was in a situational role? I think that he can improve. I like what I saw of him growing as a run defender. And I think that, yes, he definitely should be the starter on this defensive line over Shelby Harris. And then one final thing on this is Shelby Harris was one of the worst defensive linemen last year dealing with double teams. Draymond Jones, he wasn't great, but he was a lot better than Shelby Harris was.
So let me ask you one question with that. How much does the shortened offseason hurt a guy like Draymond Jones who's trying to make a name for himself, and where a team will want to maybe plug in the veteran that they know, hey, this guy has experience, he knows what he's doing? How much does that hurt Draymond Jones's chance?
I don't think it hurts that much because when you really look at it, they have the same amount of time in Vic Fangio's scheme. They've both only been in it for a year. I mean, Shelby Harris has a slight boost because he was in Denver for those couple months before Draymond Jones was drafted, but they worked with them all during the season. And I mean, it was fully expected for the Broncos to let Shelby Harris walk. The only reason why they brought him back was because he was willing to take as cheap of a deal as he did. So I don't think that it does really hurt them. I think that he still has a chance to go and show off that how much he's grown in practices. But it definitely does hurt a little bit because practices are a lot different than games. So he's not able to step up in these preseason games that have been canceled.
No, I actually agree with that. You know, it's so hard to really kind of gauge what this offseason is going to do, but still what we saw with Shelby Harris last year. And I mean, he overestimated his value on the open market drastically. I mean, he wanted $10 million a year, and he was not getting anything like that. And I don't think that he's ever going to get anything like that, especially now, and especially if Draymond Jones.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Dethrones him as I don't necessarily know that it's going to. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, you keep breaking up, man.
Am I here?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. I apologize for that. But anyways, with Shelby Harris, it's just going to be really hard to, justify paying him that kind of money. Yeah, he does have the clutch gene, as Jedi Joshua says in the stream here. Shelby has the clutch gene, batted passes, field goals, and the like. But those batted passes and the blocked field goals, those are like situational role plays where he's not really being a true dominant defender in the running game. Again, as Eric said, he was not very good against double teams. And I think that the quickness, the first step that Draymond Jones has as a one gap player and as a 3-tech and as a 5-tech, that's a lot where he's going to be able to dethrone Shelby Harris. Shelby Harris is quick off the snap, but he's not Draymond Jones quick. That as a pass rusher, I'd rather have Draymond Jones coming up, especially if he can develop in year 2.
And real quick with mentioning the batted passes, is most of those batted passes meant nothing.
Yeah.
I went back and overlooked it, and I think only 2 of them actually put the opposing team into 4th down territory. The one against the Raiders to end the season there, that was the biggest one. And I can't remember who against the other one was. Most of the other ones came on 2nd, 1st down, and the team just picked up a 1st down a few plays later. So, I mean, yes, batted passes are nice, but they need to count. I mean, yeah, he gives his defense another shot, but when it still comes down to it, is just wasn't as big as the 8 batted passes or whatever he had really look like they are on the stat sheet.
Yeah, and another big thing is, he had 6 sacks last season. 3 of them came in one game. But all 3 of those were, again, as you said earlier, they were coverage sacks. All 3 of them. Like, he's not a true dominant interior pass rusher like a Jarrell Casey, like an Aaron Donald or Fletcher Cox. Like, those guys obviously are the cream of the crop. Shelby Harris aspires to be that kind of a player. He's just not. So, all right, now it's my turn. And
you're not going to let Carl take a shot at my take?
Actually, you know what, Carl? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I just have a couple thoughts here. One, I do wonder a little bit, Draymond Jones, what kind of weight does he come in at here at the start of training camp? I mean, I hope he's put on a few pounds over the offseason. Good pounds, I should say. I mean, there's a big difference. There's a lot of guys, pot roast always put on 40, 50 pounds during the offseason, and it was because he was eating lots of pot roast. And but I'll get off that. But I do wonder a little bit of just the shortened off season, no preseason games now. I'm a huge believer in Draymond Jones, and I think no matter what, he's going to be a huge part of the rotation.
Yeah.
So he's going to get his snaps. I just do wonder a little bit who they're going to have starting early, and it might be one of those where kind of like last year for Draymond Jones, where he didn't start right off the bat. Maybe those first 4 weeks they do go with the veteran Shelby Harris, and that's okay because, like I said, Draymond Jones is still going to get his snaps, and they're going to be the pass rushing snaps because that's what they want him to do, and that's why they drafted him. But I do expect by the end of the year for Draymond Jones to be the starter. I just don't know if he's going to be week one a starter.
Yeah, and that's fair, and that's something that Zach always likes to say on the Huddle Up podcast. Not necessarily regarding Draymond Jones and Shelby Harris, but not being the week one starter. Justin Sternot at the linebacker position, he's not going to be the week one starter, but later towards the end of the season, maybe not even the end of the season, the middle of the season, he's going to overtake Todd Davis as the starting linebacker for the Broncos defense. I mean, I could see it with the coverage ability Sternot has as compared to Todd Davis, but still, he's not nearly as good against the run. And that's where Todd Davis is going to have his niche is as a run defender, especially next to Alexander Johnson. Those guys are just amazing there. So, but Draymond Jones should be the starter. Maybe not week one. I'm with Carl on that one, but he should be the starter, especially moving forward. Shelby Harris on that 1 year deal, cheap deal. He doesn't really have a long-term future to me with the Denver Broncos. At least Draymond Jones does for the next at least 2 years. So
I think that part of my thing too with that is that he should be the starter because that's just the point that you just made, though, is he's part of the future plans. That's what they drafted him to be. Yep. Shelby Harris isn't. So, I mean, you throw him out there, you make him the starter, you let him go out there, and he's got to work to keep it. Because if he doesn't, well, there you go. You have Shelby Harris. You have the veteran presence behind him. Yep. It's kind of basically throwing the rookie to the Wolves, so to speak, here, but it's just throwing the second-year player to the Wolves.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's fair. All right, before we get into my hot take, Terry Randall up in Canada showing that the Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a hashtag state of being. And I said Canada, damn it. I said Canada. Hot take, hashtag Erick's tie rocks.
Oh, those aren't hot takes, man. But Terry, funny thing is I actually didn't have a tie on. And then Lance and Buana both gave me some hard times about it. And so I had to go and grab a tie and threw it on just for you, Terry. Thank you for joining us as always.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He is legend. Wait for it. I hope you like Canadians because the last part of this word is Terry. He is legend Terry up on Mount Rushmore himself coming in here. Thank you, man. We appreciate that. All right, now for my hot take. Jerry Jeudy is so Carl last year. You and I did a Building the Broncos episode where I filled in for Nick, and we did some bold predictions. And I predicted that Deshaun Hamilton was going to have a 1,000-yard season because we didn't know it was so uncertain with Emmanuel Sanders and his recovery from that Achilles injury that he had the year before. That I said Deshaun Hamilton in his expanded role was going to have a 1,000-yard season. I'm going to double down on that take this year. Except I'm going to say that it's Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is going to have a 1,000-yard year, and I know it's really kind of a hard push here, and again, to double down on a take like that, but still, Jerry Jeudy's going to come in. He's a plug-and-play type of a player. He can play inside. He can play on the outside. Yes, the drops are concerning, but probably the best route runner we've seen coming out of college in the last decade. I mean, there's little question to that. He's going to fit in immediately. And, yeah, Pat Shurmur's offense doesn't necessarily utilize a number 2 wide receiver like that, especially not a number 3 wide receiver if they're going to use him in the slot. But still, Jerry Jeudy and the ability that he has, I think that he's going to come out and he's going to surprise a lot of people and possibly even be in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year this year.
Just took one of my bold takes. Well, yeah, you know that my number 3 bold take is Jeudy wins Rookie of the Year. And so I have a couple different reasons for this. One, the quarterbacks and where they went, they're going to have their struggles. I mean, I look at the Chargers situation. We don't even know if their rookie quarterback's going to start. Bengals are the Bengals.
That line is trash.
Yeah, they have some playmakers, but I don't know if they'll stay healthy. We'll see about that. And so it might come down to the wide receivers. And Henry Ruggs is going to have an okay situation, but I'm not sure that Derek Carr is the best to take advantage of his skill set. We'll see. Lamb, the issue that I have there in Lamb is, one, they have a great running game. Broncos are going to have a good running game too, but they have a running back that they're going to lean on. and they already have a number 1 wide receiver. They have a number 2 wide receiver that just had 1,000 yards last year. So Lamb might have a little bit of trouble of just getting the reps that a Jerry Jeudy will get. And so I'm with you. I think Jerry Judy's going to get 1,000 yards. I mean, Cortland Sutton's going to be the number 1 guy to start off the season, of course. I mean, he should be. And so teams are going to focus on him. Noah Fant, with his athleticism, teams are going to have to try to figure out how to stop him. And so then that leaves Jerry Jeudy. Either he's going to be playing the Z or he's going to be playing the slot, but he's going to be on the field. And like you said there, Lance, I don't know if there was a more NFL-ready wide receiver than Jerry Jeudy. I loved his game. I absolutely loved it. I said that it was probably the best one to fit Pat Shurmur's offense because it is that he wants to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand quickly, take care of the offensive line in that way. Jerry Jeudy gets open in a hurry. And so, I mean, he's going to get a lot of balls thrown his direction. And I just think the Broncos are going to really design it well around him. It's been easy to see this offseason because he's posted it all over social media. The guy's been working his tail off to get ready for the season. And I loved – they asked him a question on one of the episodes, like, what do you love to do other than football? And he, stammered for 2 minutes. And then he finally was like, oh, I'd like to sometimes make some music. But, football is his life. That's all he knows is football. I do worry about him, what happens if he gets injured and football doesn't work out. He has nothing else in his life right now. And there are a lot of players that is the case, but you got to love that football is his first love. And so I do think that he's going to be one of those guys. He's going to get early and often production in the NFL. And he's going to have a lot of opportunities because he's not stepping in as that true number 1, day 1, where teams are like, we got to shut down this guy and they have nobody else. No, that's Cortland Sutton. You got Noah Fant. You got a good running game. Jerry Jeudy's going to have a lot of opportunities.
Eric, go ahead.
I'm not as high on Jeudy as you two are. I mean, we knew that throughout the draft process and everything. Not that I hated Jeudy at all. I mean, I just didn't think that he was – I don't think that he was the best prospect with that. I could definitely see the potential there for him to get 1,000 yards. I don't think he actually does. I think he falls short. But even without 1,000 yards, I think he will still be in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And you basically highlighted the reasons for that is looking at these other offensive rookies, these other receivers, these running backs, these quarterbacks. I'm not seeing any of the quarterbacks really being a threat to it unless Joe Burrow just absolutely plays lights out with behind that trash offensive line. Just not seeing that. I mean, maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but just because of how talented the Chiefs' offense is around him being able to just excel so much, maybe there. But really no one else. CeeDee Lamb, as you stated, he's got to deal with Amari Cooper. He's got to deal with the running game. He's got to deal with the other receiver that they have, whose name escapes me.
Michael Gallup.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Justin Herbert, not even going to start the year. I mean, it's looking like Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter there. So I could definitely see it for the rookie of the year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. But 1,000 yards, it seems a little bit rich for me. I think the Broncos, they want to rely on the running game a little bit more, or at least the running backs a little bit more, taking the ball out of the hands of the receivers just a little bit. I think he has a great year for a rookie wide receiver, but I think that it's kind of I'm trying to think of the right word I want to say. It's kind of a year to just prepare for 2021. I think that's the year that we're really going to see Jeudy break out. And I'll add to this is I think that in 2021, it's going super out here early, that Jerry Jeudy actually breaks 1,300 yards receiving.
Wow, there you go. I would be all about that, especially if Cortland Sutton can still produce at a massively high level. Unless you think that Cortland Sutton is not going to be around very much longer. That would be another hot take. Is John Elway going to pay Cortland Sutton? Now, there's one thing that I do want to actually a couple of players that I do want to bring in here into the fold, into the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Carl, I kind of disagree with you on the head. Actually, I disagree with both of you on Henry Ruggs, just because what he does so well with the slant pass and the over routes and the crossing routes and stuff like that. If I missed you on that, Eric, I'm sorry. But still, Derek Carr being able to throw those quick slant routes, the crossing routes and stuff like that, I disagree with you on that one a little bit. The other one, though, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City. Look at what he's able to do running the football as a receiver out of the backfield as well. He could be a hot name to get the offensive rookie of the year outside of the quarterback position. So now, Eric, if I missed you on that, I apologize.
I gotta say, Lance, I'm very disappointed. I have talked about Henry Ruggs and what he can do as running slants for months.
Oh yeah, I know.
So,
what?
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Let me clarify my statement then. I don't think that Derek Carr is the quarterback to fully take advantage of Henry Ruggs.
Okay, there you go.
So I do think those – the short passing game, he's going to be a part of that. But Henry Ruggs, part of what he brings is that threat of the deep ball. Well, if they're not worried about Derek Carr ever throwing deep, that eliminates such a huge part of what Henry Ruggs brings to the picture. Even if he's not going deep very often, if you never have to worry about it, who cares? And so that's what I mean by Derek Carr not being the best quarterback for Henry Ruggs.
That I can agree with. I can definitely agree with that. I mean, as you stated, they're going to have to take shots because they got to make sure that they can keep his speed as a weapon just to help everybody else out. And if they don't, then what's even the point of covering him, really? I mean, not saying you just let him run free before people take. That's what I'm saying. But you got to take shots to fully maximize it. And I think that if they are able to use that aspect to it, that could really actually help out Lyndon Bowden as the receiver out of the backfield that they want him to be, or Darren Waller, or the other receiver they have, or Hunter Renfrow. Yep. It could really help them out, but they've got to use Ruggs that way. But real quick, James Campbell came in with a £5 I can never remember donation. Thank you, James. As always, man, you're awesome, man. Always fun to chat with you up on Twitter too. Says can't stay long. I think the Broncos special teams will take a step forward, get 3 punt returns while looking improved in coverage. All right, guys, what do you think about that one? That's a pretty hot take. I gotta think. I think myself.
I don't think it's that far off. They got a new punter that should be better than what the Broncos had last year, at least more consistent. Returner wise, they still have Deontay Spencer coming back, who was a top 5 punt returner last year, kick returner as well. And now they added KJ Hamler to the picture, who's going to challenge him for those snaps. And KJ Hamler was one of the best returners in college football.
Yeah.
So it's either you're going to have a great punt returner and Spencer, you're going to have a great punt returner and Hamler. So return game is going to be great. Coverage game, we'll kind of see. I did worry a little bit about the Broncos' new punter. Sometimes his hang time wasn't consistent. And coverage units, that's the biggest thing, is hang time. You can punt it 55 yards, but if it's only hanging in the air for 3.5 seconds, you just set your team for failure.
Yeah.
So I do worry a little bit about that, but I also like the depth of this team better than I did last year for sure too.
Yeah. I actually agree with that. But Sam Martin is actually good as also as a directional kicker. He's not like a coffin corner kind of a guy, but he can actually directional punt and get guys to the sidelines and use the sideline to his advantage and keep guys from getting back to the middle of the field. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Broncos punt coverage teams look like and to see that aspect of it. The kickoff coverage I'm terrified of. Let's just be honest. The Broncos kickoff coverage units have been bad since like 2005. They've been awful all the time. So the one thing that you do get to see in that aspect is hopefully Brandon McManus just forgets everything that Tom McMahon says and kicks the ball through the end zone every single time he kicks off, because I don't want to watch the Broncos on their kick coverage units. I don't want to watch them on their punt coverage units either, but it's going to be interesting to see with at least a dynamic punter. It'll be interesting to see how the coverage units actually improve. I do think that the return game of the special teams is going to be better. I don't think coverages will be. That's where it's going to become spicy to me. And Carl, you actually hit the nail on the head as to why I don't think punt coverage will be. I think Sam Martin's inconsistency with his hang time is just going to leave out the Broncos coverage units out to dry so many times that it's just not going to be fixed. And while the depth is improved, I still have a lot of concerns about it. Duke Boynton comes in.
I just wanted to point out real quick, where I got that information from was an Erick Trickel article. So everybody head over to milehighhuddle.com, look at his player profiles because they are outstanding.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Duke Boynton coming in with the $10 super chat. Bold prediction. MHH pods become the best pods viewed ever in a football stance in 1 year. You know what? Actually, there was some interesting information to come out, and I haven't seen what the updated statistics are, and I don't think Chad has actually updated that. But the Mile High Huddle podcast network is actually in like the top 50 in American football podcasts on Apple Podcasts right now. So we are ascending to being one of the best football podcasts in America, at least, maybe even in the world. So
don't worry, Lance. I'll keep carrying you.
Hey, man,
right,
that's
James comes
shots fired. That's not fair.
All right, James comes in and says, agree with the Judy take. Saw an extra spicy take by Cameron Parker that had Butt emerging at tight end 2 for this season, which is bold. It definitely is bold. Cameron's an awesome dude. I love him for his takes, hot takes or not. Like he's such an awesome follow on Twitter. But I gotta say, yeah, this one's a little spicy for me. I'd love to see it happen, but just because I don't like Nick Van Nett or Jeff Hireman, and just no. But yeah, I would like to see it happen. Just don't think it will.
Right, Jake Butt. I mean, he'd have, and if there's anybody that was hurt more by losing the preseason and things like that, I mean, it's Jake Butt. It just those guys who have been injured, haven't got a chance to really show much on the field. They need that live fire action to show that they can stay healthy after a couple big hits, and he's just not going to get it. So I don't think he's going to have the opportunity that he could have if this was his rookie year or second year kind of thing. I loved his potential, but this is the risk you take when you take a guy that's coming off a serious injury out of college.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was when Jake Butt was drafted, I was pounding the table, literally pounding the table, not on Mile High Huddle. I was actually on a different website at the time, but pounding the table for the Broncos to take Jake Butt in the later rounds, 4th or 5th round pick. He ended up being a 5th round pick, I believe. But still, the potential with the guy, the potential as a receiver, had a very good catch radius, very smooth hands, ran really good routes, was a decent blocker, probably a little bit better of a blocker than Nick Van Nett is, at least in my opinion. Now, it's so unfortunate, and the way that his body is developed, and the way that he actually had surgery. I think it was corrective surgery to kind of grind out the grooves in his knees to make sure that it doesn't actually have that shearing action in his knee that tears your ACL. And it has worked so far, but just the recovery from that has been such a big detriment to him. So I don't know. With Jake Butt, if he does come back healthy, he has the ability to be tight end number 2 on this team. But I don't think it's going to happen with Nick Van Nett just getting paid.
Yeah. So real quick, there's a bunch of comments here that I want to get to, and then we'll get to Terry's super chat, and then we'll get back to our second round of hot takes. But one of them was Buona Beast. Fred Brown makes the team to be a gunner over Joe Jones. Sorry, Buona. This is just kind of the little football snob of me. Joe Jones isn't actually a gunner. Just saying. So, but Fred Brown actually could. I think that's last year. I think he was used as a gunner a little bit towards the end of the season, and he did pretty well.
He was actually playing really well on punt coverage.
Yeah. And James Campbell, seriously, though, it could be the end of the road for Jones. He has value on coverage units, but he's probably not a gunner, more of a 2 or 3. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And the issue with Joe Jones is that he was effectively replaced by Josie Jewell.
Yeah. I got another super chat here from Kevin Peterson really fast. I want to grab this, a $5 super. Do the Broncos split punt return duties so they don't bang up their second-round pick? I could see that.
It's just such a chemistry thing. I don't think they would.
Yeah. That's the thing is if you're having them go every other one, each of them have different strengths that they bring to the punt return unit and how they go about doing their business. So the blockers have to really think who's back there. And also just you want your guy that you can trust to catch it every time to be back there. And I just think that would hurt if you aren't doing it every single time back there.
Real quick, too, I want to throw this out there. Guys, for talking about Joe Jones, I mean, Carl mentioned earlier about the player profiles. For more on Joe Jones, make sure you go to youtube.com, Broncos player profile, Joe Jones. It's under the Mile High Huddle page there. Make sure you guys check that out. It has a little bit more information about him and what he's done and hasn't done so far in his NFL career. I mean, that's what all these profiles are, just to kind of throw my own stuff out there. Jedi Joshua, he's got a nice take. I mean, I know that's how this is because, I mean, Lance, you and I have talked about Levante Bellamy before.
Yeah, we have.
But he has Calvin Muhammad making the roster over Royce Freeman and Bellamy.
Over Freeman and Bellamy, that might be a little
Freeman
too.
And Bellamy.
That might be a little bit too spicy because Royce Freeman was so good as a receiver out of the backfield last year. His pass protection is obviously a lot better than Phillip Lindsay's is as well. And it's not just out of the backfield. At least they lined up Royce Freeman on the outside. It made him run some quick hitters, some slants and stuff like that. They made a priority to get Royce Freeman involved in the passing game, whereas Khalfani Muhammad, I don't think that he lines up outside. They maybe might line him up in the slot, use him as a gadget role. He's smaller, kind of quicker. Levante Bellamy, same kind of a thing there. But over Royce Freeman, that's a little too bold for me.
He was the best runner in preseason last year.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
I mean, I don't think there shouldn't be any argument about that. So it depends on how much Shermer really thinks Freeman can even be a part of this offense, though.
Yeah, that is a big question.
Yeah,
I just don't know how much he even would believe in Freeman with just how pedestrian, honestly, he looked. Like, yeah, he was a decent pass blocker, obviously has decent hands and things like that, but it wasn't like he did much with the ball in his hands once he got it. And so if he wants a little bit more dynamic ability out of the offense, Bellamy or Muhammad make a lot more sense in that role.
Yep, I definitely agree. I mean, and also more speed, better hands, and just better running. I think that Muhammad and Bellamy both are better runners than Royce Freeman. At this point, we kind of know that Freeman can go get you some yards as a runner, but he's not. I don't think he's going to be that good runner who can consistently get you that 4 yards per carry average that you want, or well over that. I mean, Bellamy and Muhammad, I think they offer up more. Bellamy and Muhammad are both smaller, but I like their feistiness when they are tasked with blocking. There just seems to be, when watching Bellamy in his college shape and Muhammad from last preseason, there seems to be a lot more desire from them than I've ever seen with Royce Freeman.
That's fair. The one thing that I want to actually add to this is just the way that they press the hole on the inside. If they're going to run the inside zone, we saw that with Khalfani Muhammad last year, was the way that he pressed the hole on the inside zone and then got vertically. We're not seeing that with Royce Freeman. And actually, Eric, you and I broke it down a couple weeks ago talking about how Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman, the dynamic between the three of them. Just if you would switch that role, if you would instead have Phillip Lindsay be the outside, bounce it to the outside, and then break upfield, and have Royce Freeman be willing to run, press the hole on the inside, and then cut back the same way we watched with Melvin Gordon, it would be a better role suited for him. Khalfani Muhammad at least has the ability to do that. He presses the hole to the inside and then makes the cut back the other way. So I agree with you guys on that one. I just think that, again, with this limited offseason, the limited preseason, everything we're going to see right now, Khalfani Muhammad made the practice squad last year. At least we already know what you're going to get with Royce Freeman, and they're going to go with the veteran in that aspect, especially as a pass catcher out of the backfield.
Yeah. So just real quick, a couple more rapid fires. Duke Boynton again says Denver should have kept Janovich, who's such a rare asset in Denver. He definitely has a kind of a special skill set there with all he can do, but Pat Shurmur just doesn't utilize a fullback enough to justify keeping him.
Yeah.
Not going to try to pronounce your name. Sorry about that. I'm terrible with names, and that's one that maybe one of you guys can. But he says, wrong about Martin. He's in the top 5 of net yards. Depth will make the coverage teams way better. Actually, and also on that note, though, is that the Detroit Lions actually had one of the best special teams units in the NFL the last few years, which definitely helps with that coverage aspect of it. Denver's hasn't been that great. And the hang time aspect of it was easier to be covered up with the Lions because of the speed they had. And I'm not sure the Gunners for the Broncos have that speed to help cover it up as obviously they did in Detroit.
And I would add, I mean, their coach comes from Belichick, who pushes special teams big time.
Yeah, Matt Patricia, you may argue his decision making every now and again, but still, that guy is a hell of a football coach. All right, Stephen Baumgartner coming in here with the $5 super chat. I think Bassie will make the team. Hey, you know what? I think Bassie is going to make the team as well.
Right there with you.
Yep.
Right there with
Carl?
You. Yeah, I think he's got as good a chance as anybody for sure.
I think the fact that he is really the only he's basically the only other nickel that they have on the roster behind Bryce Callahan. I think that's going to be a big boost for him.
Yeah.
Terry Randall coming in again with another $5 super coming out of Canada. Michael Lowe starts in at least 10 games. Michael Ojemudia, he's talking about here. 70-plus tackles, 5-plus takeaways, and 15-plus pass breakups. # state of being, # Broncos world. 15 plus pass breakups. That's insane. That's insane. 5 takeaways. I could see it if he's, I don't know about him forcing fumbles. I'm not sure. Does he have that Peanut Tillman gene, guys? Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I don't think that he's, I don't really know much about that. 5 plus takeaways, though. Are you talking fumbles? Obviously, takeaways, so fumbles plus interceptions, but still, at the same time, 5 plus takeaways from a rookie, 70 plus tackles. I might see that, especially. We don't know what the dynamic of this Broncos secondary is going to look like right now. We don't know where Bryce Callahan's going to be at. Ojemudia is going to play primarily on the outside. Where's Devontae Bosby in this situation? What does Devontae Harris look like as well? I don't know. I find it so hard, especially at the cornerback position, because it is so hard to transition from college game to the NFL. And yes, Michael Ojemudia does fit what Vic Fangio wants to do in that cover 3, cover 4 kind of scheme, that zone scheme. Very smart with his pass offs to his next coverage defender, stuff like that. It's just, do you really trust a rookie defender to come in and play at a high level like that? That's insanely hot.
Well, they might be forced to, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
The main thing is they just don't have any depth there in the secondary. Yeah. And I will say, with Terry Randall's thought here, something to keep in mind is he could have those 15 pass breakups, but still give up 1,000 yards on the season. Yeah. Just because teams are going to be going, well, why would we target Bosby and Callahan and some of these other veterans? Why don't we attack this rookie? Yep. And so he could have a lot of big plays, but also give up a lot of big plays. So I could see that playing out.
One thing I would add is that I definitely think he starts in at least 10 games. They're giving him the first chance to be the number 2 corner. Basically, he's going to be the other boundary corner opposite A.J. Boye and then Bryce Callahan in the nickel. So I think that he's definitely going to have a shot. It's up to him to go out there and make sure he earns it. So I think that we should get back to our second and third hot takes, and then we'll come back to the chat before we wrap up the show. How does that sound, guys?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I want to go back quickly, though. You were talking about the Oakland Raiders and all the offensive weapons that they had there, Eric, and I want your second hot take here. And I know it's going to really ruffle some feathers. I know that.
Oh, this one was hard to write, but all the studying I've done of the Raiders, their offense, what they did last year, everything that they've added on the defensive side of the ball as well, I think that the Broncos this year are going to really struggle defending against and attacking this Raiders team. They just have so many weapons on there that bring so many different skill sets to that offense. And with the weakness that the Broncos have at cornerback, I don't trust them to be able to stop Darren Waller or Hunter Renfrow or Henry Ruggs. I have a lot of concerns. I think they'll be able to shut down Josh Jacobs as a runner. But I think that they're going to have issues against the passing game there, especially with John Gruden. He did a good job last year of attacking the Broncos secondary. I think that's going to be an issue there. The easiest way for them to go is that hope that Colton Miller doesn't take another big step forward like he did last year, and that they're able to hit Derek Carr early and often. I think that'll be the best way to slow down that offense that they have. And the defense is just spread them out the best you can. Their biggest weakness was linebackers, and they threw money at that position. So it's just spread them out and just hope you can move the ball, because that's a very talented defense that the Raiders have now.
Yeah. I was talking to you guys a little bit, I think a couple days ago about this. I thought the Broncos might struggle more with the Raiders than they will with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Chiefs.
Sorry, just real quick. I actually had that originally written down, and I sat there, and Lance can attest to this. I sat there and I was having a hard time, because the biggest reason why I didn't keep that is the difference of caliber of quarterbacks. Yeah. That is the only reason why I don't think that they'll struggle more against the Raiders than the Chiefs.
Yeah, I just think overall roster-wise and how they're built, yes, I do think the Raiders are built more to attack the Broncos and their weaknesses than the Chiefs are. But you're right. Mahomes is the equalizer in every situation, and he beats anything that you throw at him. But, the Raiders, I mean, you saw last year, they were the grinded-out team, running with Josh Jacobs, get those short third down plays. Broncos secondary couldn't handle being up there in press coverage against bigger guys. They're going to have speed now with Henry Ruggs. And it was irritating watching those games where they'd have those 15, 16 play drives, and you're just going, just stop them once. Like, don't let them pick up this 4 yards on first down and then 4 yards again and then have this 3rd down and 2. And you're just questioning what you could even do to stop them. And so it was frustrating watching those games. I mean, Broncos obviously came out with the one victory, but it was kind of, honestly, the Broncos got outplayed in that game, if we're being really honest. And it just happened to have some plays that went their way. But, the Raiders, I will give this to Gruden. He knows how to attack your weakness. And he does it over and over again until you say, we're going to do something to stop this, and then he attacks the next weakness.
Yeah, the one thing that I want to kind of address here, and I'm not exactly sure who the Raiders did bring in to substitute for losing Kelechi Osemele to the New York Jets in free agency, but who is going to be their starting left guard? And what can you do as far as disrupting the running game and the interior pass pressure that you can get by inserting Jarrell Casey at that 3 technique or the 5 technique and attack that new left guard? What is I forget his name for whatever reason, but still taking away that aspect. The Raiders always had a very good offensive line, especially in the interior with Kelechi Osemele. Rodney Hudson's probably the best best center in all of the NFL, and then you have Gabe Jackson at right guard. The offensive interior of that offensive line has been just so spectacular. What can the Broncos do to attack that weakness now, that left guard position?
I wouldn't call it a weakness because it's Richie Incognito.
Okay, well, never mind then. I mean, Richie Incognito is a massive.
I would say Gabe Jackson is the bigger weakness of those two. Okay. He hasn't been the same since his injuries happened. So if there's anybody I'm attacking, that's the guy I'm actually going after with that Raiders offensive line. And then, of course, Colton Miller. Even that first game, when Bradley Chubb was healthy, Bradley Chubb owned him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Derek Carr was getting it out so fast, it didn't really matter that Colton Miller was getting abused in that game. But so, I mean, those are going to be the 2 areas I'm going to probably attack the most. And then you're going to have to figure out just that's the problem with the Raiders is they have such a mixture of weapons. The Chiefs, it's just speed. We're going to outrun everybody. But the Raiders, they have size and Darren Waller. They got speed now, obviously, with Henry Ruggs. Tyrell Williams brings that size as well. Hunter Renfrow brings that route running and underneath ability. They've I know Nick always talks about it, building a basketball team out of your receiving core. And they've done a good job of doing that.
Yeah, it's just going to be really hard to see what the Broncos are going to do to stop Darren Waller over the middle of the field, and especially coming on that full sail tight end fade is what I'm looking for, or the corner routes and stuff that Waller absolutely abused the Broncos on last year. Now, Carl, it's your turn for your second hot take for the Broncos this season. I'll wrap it up with mine.
Yeah, well, and it fits in here with what Kevin Peterson says. If the intent on drafting Hamler was to stretch the field to give space to Sutton and Judy, is it truly worth getting 1 touchdown return when Spencer is capable? Just saying. My second hot take really is Tim Patrick will have better stats than KJ Hamler will as a receiver. 1, just because I think they really want to get Judy out of the slot. That's where he's best. Give him the ability to go 2 ways. Or go deep or whatever, but just give him as many options as you possibly can. And just having 2 rookies on the field at that receiving core, that is asking a lot of that offense. Maybe later in the season, you could see a little bit more of that, but I do think Tim Patrick's going to get more run. And so that leaves Hamler. Then what do you do with that guy? He's just your second-round pick. You got to get a weapon like that on the field. Easiest way to do that is special teams. That's why I see him actually beating out Spencer for the returner this year.
That's actually a pretty good point. And it's also very interesting. We talked about this last week on Dove Valley Deep Divers, just the hot take that Benjamin Albright put out on Broncos Country Tonight about how the Broncos were going to deploy Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick as the starting wide receivers, just kind of creating that what dynamic do the Broncos really want to look at? And again, going back to what you said, Carl, Jerry Jeudy played primarily out of the slot at Alabama. I mean, for the majority of the time, you had Jalen Waddle on one side, Henry Ruggs on the other, and Jerry Jeudy was bouncing on both sides, coming out of the slot, working that dynamic. So you already know what you're going to get there. What is KJ Hamler's role in this offense if that is actually true? Now, Eric, what do you think about that? Does Tim Patrick actually have a better offensive statistic season than KJ Hamler, or is that kind of shooting fish in a barrel?
I don't think he does. Personally, I think that KJ Hamler, maybe earlier in the season, I think that Tim Patrick will definitely be the guy, kind of splitting reps maybe with like Deshaun Hamilton or Fred Brown if he makes it. But I think by little just before the midseason, I think KJ Hamler will come into his own and really become that explosive playmaker that the Broncos drafted him to be on offense, and just kind of even the decoy when it's needed, and eventually go and surpass Tim Patrick for it. My thing with Tim Patrick is that he's a solid depth receiver, but he's just hasn't become the guy. I mean, I don't think he really has the skill set to become like one of those guys, I guess. So definitely a hot take, but yeah, I just not one that I can agree with, Carl.
Okay, it was of all of them that I wrote, that was going to be my most controversial.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I've said it multiple times. I really want to see what the Broncos are going to do with KJ Hamler coming on jet and rocket motion to try to get the sweeps going, similar to what the Kansas City Chiefs do with Tyreek Hill. A lot of stuff, the same kind of stuff you saw with Tavon Austin, not only in Dallas but in LA, like the jet sweep stuff, getting the offense's eyes moving or the defense's eyes moving laterally and taking their eyes off of what you're actually trying to do. So Duke coming in here again with a $5 super for Carl's hashtag majestic beard cream.
I did have to trim it up this week. I got some weird chemicals in it on accident, and so I had to trim some of that hair off that did not end well. It got all clumped together, and so it's not as majestic as it was on Tuesday. Sorry, guys. It'll come back. It always does.
Hey, at least I shaved mine. Mine grows in all patchy up here, so it's really bad. At least I'm well kempt today. Now, for my
because we're talking about real quick, mine doesn't even grow in.
Lucky.
I can grow facial hair. It grows to be about that long and then stops growing.
All right, so for my second hot take, and this is one that I think that both of you guys are going to get on board with here. Justin Simmons, he of the franchise tag and having to play on $11.4 million this year, not getting a new deal, is going to go out and he's going to prove to everybody that he is one of the best safety talents in the entire NFL, going into Vic Fangio's scheme that really relies on safety coverage. He's going to lead all NFL safeties in interceptions this year. Now, I know this is a little bit spicy just because last year, I believe, was his best season in terms of as like taking the football away. 4 interceptions, had a lot of very nice plays, and he's not necessarily the dynamic center fielder like you see with an Eddie Jackson, like you see with the Anthony Harris as well, a couple other different guys. But still, Justin Simmons, I think that he's going to come in and he's going to be pissed off. Honestly, you see him as a leader. He's a leader off the field. He's a leader on the field. He lets his play do the talking. And I think that, honestly, he's kind of scorned by the Broncos right now. It may not be very true, but you know what? That's the kind of player, that's the kind of person that Justin Simmons is. I'm going to prove you wrong over and over and over again. He's going to go out there. He's going to have an all-pro season this year. He's going to lead all safeties with interceptions. He could actually lead the league in interceptions. I just wish he was a little bit more rangy as a center fielder. I really do. Because if he was like an Eddie Jackson, it would be no question. I think he's smart enough of a player. He's talented enough to be able to do so. But still, I don't know. That's my take. Justin Simmons.
I have one issue with what you said. And that is that you said Justin Simmons will show that he is one of the best safeties in the NFL. No, this year he's going to show that he is the best safety in the NFL.
There you go.
Yeah, he is in, honestly, the perfect situation.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, he's got great pass rushers in front of him. Cornerbacks are a little bit iffy, obviously, and linebackers are a little bit iffy, but he is in the perfect system for a safety to be featured. There's probably no system in football that does a better job of safeties being top guys and always looking good. And that's not trying to take away from Justin Simmons. It just highlights even more what he brings to the table. And I mean, the last year with before Vic Fangio came in, he was having to play about 5 different positions because they had so many injuries in that secondary. And I just felt bad for him because I was like, this is hurting his value all because a coach doesn't know how to use them. And I love that Vic Fangio last year with the safeties. When injuries started happening, he's like, no, this is where they're best. We're going to keep our guys at the best position that they can play, and we'll try to figure out the other ones as we go. And I think he's going to continue to have a great season, going to prove that he deserves that big contract. And I hope the Broncos are in a position next year to do that. We'll see where things go with the the cap. I don't know where it's going to be. So I hope they can get him signed long term, but that's obviously up in the air with just where things are at.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's really hard to predict what's going on in the world right now. It sounds like I'm not sure exactly what the Players Association has agreed to. It sounds like they're going to try to move some money around and stuff like that to try to, accentuate the loss of revenue. Try to take some money away from this year to add to next year and potentially do some stuff like that. So I don't know exactly how it's all going to work out, but the long-term extension for Justin Simmons, it should have happened a long time before it came to the franchise tag, honestly. He'd been playing at a very high level over the last course of the 3 seasons, ascending into, again, one of the best safety players in the entire NFL. So that contract extension should have happened a long time ago. But this year, he's going to prove it. He's going to prove – and the Broncos are really going to pay a lot of money for him. And if they want to keep him around, they have to pay a lot of money for him, probably $15, $16 million a year to keep him, because he's going to be that kind of a player this year. All right.
Yeah, I can definitely see it, but we've hit that hour mark, so we gotta jump out of here, guys. So Lance, if you want to do the honors of saying all the farewell stuff that I don't like to say, so that's why I make you do it.
I was going to try to get into this rapid fire for your last 3. I'm gonna throw mine out here really fast, and maybe we can talk about this later. Eric, I want you to do yours as well. Carl, yours as well. Just rapid fire. My third one is that Bryce Callahan comes back, plays fully healthy for the entirety of the season, and wins the Comeback Player of the Year. Eric, you're up.
Andrew Beck doesn't make the roster.
And then mine was, I already said it earlier, but Jerry Jeudy wins Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I wish we could have got to all those. It would have been a great discussion. But we are at that 1 hour mark, and we got to get out of here, guys. So thank you all for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow the show on Twitter by following at DVDD_pod. It's the easiest way to keep your fingers on the pulse of what's going on. Also, because we're having Carl jump in, follow at BTB on BTB Football Pod. That's the best way to follow what they've got going on. Get yourself a hat also as well.
Carl's the reason to follow it, by the way.
Yeah, we don't appreciate Nick all that much over on DVDD. But anyway,
Nick's not here doesn't mean we can't take shots at him.
That's true. That's very true. We take shots at Nick all the time. But anyways, guys, follow us. You can follow all 3 of us on Twitter at Sanderson MHH, at Erick Trickel, and at Carl Dumler MHH. Follow at Huddle Up Pod for instant updates on what's going on with the entire Huddle Up Podcast network. At Mile High Huddle for instant news and analysis, breaking news, film pieces, opinion articles like one I've got coming on Drew Lock here soon. You can get that at Mile High Huddle. Head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get your merch on. Get yourself a hat. Get yourself a T-shirt. There's a coffee cup, a face mask, a hoodie, anything for men, women, whatever fits your fancy. Go over there and hit that. And if you guys are not financially able to do so, the 3 things that you can do to help this show grow and reach as many Broncos fans as possible is 1, subscribe wherever you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, anything like that. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Like every single video that you guys see. I see we had over 100 viewers, and there's only 31 likes right now. So like every video, guys. I'm not sure what's wrong. No, it's fine. If you really love what we're doing here on the Huddle Up Podcast Network, share it to every Broncos fan. Get in front of as many Broncos fans' eyes as possible, and that's the easiest way to help the show grow. Now, guys, before we get out of here, Carl, any last words?
Nope, just glad you guys let me join you here this evening. Always a good time talking to you guys. We love talking about football outside of our shows, and so getting to do it here. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Always glad to have you on. Better you than Nick.
Truth. Eric, anything from you, buddy?
I've been playing a lot of Warzone. So if you guys play that, go ahead and hit me up on Twitter. Catch up and play some games or something like that. But also, I didn't catch you do the YouTube channel, but also make sure you guys go and subscribe to the Mile High Huddle YouTube page and check out all of the player profile videos that I have going up right now. After this, I have some big things planned with some videos. Some of it's delving into Drew Lock. We're going to have some stuff delving into the coaching staff, a bunch of different players as well, going a little bit more in depth than these player profiles are. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you guys can see that stuff and turn on notifications for it. So when they get put out there that you guys will have it brought to your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to join in on the video stuff here soon. I'm going to do a ranking the AFC West video series here soon, ranking every AFC West by position. So we're gonna have some fun with that. Now, guys, one more thing. I'm not exactly sure my status for next Friday, so we're gonna talk about that a little bit more. I do have a child being born on Wednesday, and I have some family coming into town as well as that. So I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to be able to join you guys on the Dub Valley Deep Divers podcast. But in the meantime, y'all stay safe and take care. Have a great football weekend, and we will see you guys next week, hopefully.